I have a question for black Muslims, African Muslims. Why do you think countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, or Iran truly care about you? Truly care about Islam? Like, this idea of global Ummah, or whatever that you guys call it, doesn't really exist. What exists is the banks and the governments that always prioritize money and power over religion. So, like, if you are Nigerian Muslim, for example, your Nigerian Christian neighbor is closer to you by DNA, by history, and by cultural than Saudi Arabia or the UAE. Stop being naive. Like, religion is an idea, and an idea is far more powerful than any weapon when it comes to controlling people. Once it's believed, it's passed down to the next generation again and again. That's why there will always be a clash between ideas. People fight to control that idea. Why do you think Iran and Saudi Arabia are enemies? Why do you think they fight all the time? It's all about an idea and who will have the authority over that idea. That idea, I mean Islam. Whoever controls that idea controls the believers of that idea. So, look at you. Like, I could say there's something about Christians. Christians who support Israel, not for political or policy reasons, but for being Judaism, for religion reasons. What makes you think Judaism is closer to you than Muslim? In fact, I would say Islam is closer to Christianity than Judaism is. But since the pastor or the priest told you it is, now you're more likely to believe it. So, it is a great tragedy to me how African countries are, or nations, will continue to fight for decades of coming, or maybe 100 years in the future. And especially as these countries, or African countries, as their population is projected to grow, by 2050 we are going to be around 3 billion. By 2100 we're going to be around 4.5 million, something around that. So 1 in 4 people at least is going to be African, and these are going to be young men and young women, and they're more likely to be influenced by these ideas. They're more likely to join a religious group who want certain outcome. And this whole idea of the global, for example, specifically for Muslims, this whole idea of the global Ummah, is that what it's called? The global Muslim community? Do you really think that exists? If that exists, Sudan would not be what it is now. Those are two Muslims. And those two Muslims groups are funded by 2 other 3 Muslims. Saudi is funding Saudi and Iran is funding the Sudan's military, and the UAE is funding the RSF. It's the same thing in Somalia. It's the same thing in West Africa or in the Sahel. Like, in Africa, like, Islam has not been productive. Islam been always held as or even Christian the same. I could say the same. Just nowadays it's less in Christian terms, but before it was mostly Christian who had this issue, but now it's Muslim. So it's a mechanism to control people. It's a mechanism to drive them to certain outcomes. It's a mechanism to make them fight each other so resources can be extracted. Like, why would the UAE basically fund the RSF? Well, they have 2 things they want. They want gold, because Sudan is very rich in gold. The second is they want access to the Red Sea as for port, because they want to expand their influence to the Red Sea. And if the RSF wins, they will control the Sudanese government. So what that means is, well, now you have influence over a country. Second, you have influence over gold. Basically, you're the first person to buy the gold, and you have access to the port. I could say the same thing what Ethiopia is trying to do in Eritrea, funded by the Arab Emirates. Like, this is the same thing. What makes you think a country like Saudi Arabia, who basically controls the religion, will have the best interest in you or the best interest in the religion. No, it's a gun. Religion is a gun. It's a method of controlling people and directing them what they want. If I have a gun, I can tell you whatever I want and you would believe it whether you like it or not. And we saw this. Why do you think we enslave people? Nobody is voluntarily gets enslaved except in religion. You get enslaved by power, by weapon, unless it's an idea. It's an idea, you voluntarily submit to it. But usually most people don't submit to it voluntarily. They are forced by it, or they accept it so they can join the resources, the community. For example, if it's a rich community, Christian or Muslim, you join it first, or you get forced by it. Then your kids think that's the way it is. Now the cycle continues. After that, everything's voluntary. So religion is going to be a virus, a disease for African development, especially. Religion is basically disaster in a community where the community is uneducated. And African nations, for the most part, aren't educated, especially in critical thinking, because we are a social-based community and we care about our neighbors, our stuff. So there's no individual outcome. In Africa, in the West, the individual comes before the group, before his ethnicity or before his tribe. In Africa, the group comes before the individual. What that means is the group is held by a system of belief and culture, basically a DNA. You could be a Yoruba, you could be other basically specific tribe, or Maasai, or you could be under a religion. Basically, this comes first. Basically, if you Maasai, the Maasai tribe would come first. If you're Yoruba, the Yoruba tribe would come first. If you're Muslim, the Muslim religion would come first. So in this kind of situation, ideas are more powerful. And in Africa, this will continue for a very, very long time. No matter how far we go, religions will come from far away, from hundreds and thousands of miles away, and insert an idea and control us like a puppet. It's a virus. Once it gets in your head, you don't even know it's in your head. You think it's the right way. In fact, some of you are going, instead of disagreeing with my idea, some of you will feel offended. Like, I'm going after your existence, your fundamentals, because you were believed, you were told that is who you are. Without it, you're nothing. And this is just my opinion. Deal with it.